Shalom, family. Welcome to today. The verse I have for you is Colossians 2:20 through 23. It says, "Since you have died with Christ to the elementary spiritual forces of this world, why, as though you still belong to the world, do you submit to its rules? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch. These rules, which have to do with things that are all destined to perish with use, are based on merely human commands and teachings. Such regulations indeed have an appearance of wisdom with their self-imposed worship, their false humility, and their harsh treatment of the body, but they lack any value in restraining sensual indulgence." So when I read this verse, I thought about how about a year and a half ago, God revealed to me that I had made finding a husband and starting a family an idol in my life. And he asked me to stop dating for a season. At the time, I was reading a lot of Christian dating advice books, and I was following a lot of Christian dating gurus online. I made a list of boundaries, and I made a dating plan according to this dating advice that I felt confident would lead me to my husband and set us up for a successful marriage. My plan wasn't bad. It was actually healthy. It was good. But good things aren't always God things. Not long after God revealed this idol and told me to stop dating, I met a guy at church and shoved God's instruction way back deep in that closet in the back of my mind. I remembered what God had said, but I thought I must have heard him wrong, because here I found this amazing godly man. My church is supportive. Our families are supportive. Our friends are supportive. Everyone around us was saying, go for it. Our first issues arose over my boundaries. Although my boyfriend respected my boundaries, they weren't his boundaries. They weren't God's boundaries. They were mine. And because of that, whenever I had a moment of weakness, boundaries would be crossed. And once you cross a boundary, it is extremely hard to cross back over. I felt absolutely devastated and like we would never have a successful relationship, because I had broken all these boundaries that I had made for my partner and myself based on rules created by other people. Well, that guy and I ended up having a very unsuccessful relationship, but it had nothing to do with breaking my rules and everything to do with the fact that I didn't listen to God in the first place. I was never meant to date that man. Not at that time anyway. What I learned from it was boundaries are good, but relying on my own strength to produce a successful relationship is not. Instead of trying to follow a long list of dating do's and don'ts, I should have never engaged in that relationship. I thought it would be easier to follow a list of Christian dating rules than actually work on my relationship with Christ and try to overcome this idol. In Jesus' time, it was the rules of the Pharisees. They used their man-made rules and interpretations of Scripture to condemn God, to put Jesus on the cross. In churches today, there are all sorts of rules and regulations in different denominations. Today's scripture is essentially saying that the danger of rules is our faith becomes more about our external appearances and our own self-righteousness than our internal transformation and God's righteousness. My prayer today is we do not rely on a DIY spirituality. Christ is enough. His is the only voice we need to follow. I love you all. Have a blessed day. Shalom.